Welcome to the greatest mystery of human history. Here, where the wind sweeps the sands, stand structures that make even time bow down. The Egyptian pyramids. Built 4,500 years ago. But how? How did they achieve this flawless geometry, which challenges even today's technology, in an age where the wheel wasn't fully used and iron tools hadn't been invented? Most people look here and just see piles of rocks. But today, we won't look at the stones, we will look at the sweat, the mathematics, and the blood between those stones. Put aside the fairy tales and alien theories. Today, we are descending into the dusty construction site of ancient Egypt. We will tell the real, scientific, and earth-shattering story of how 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing 2.5 tons, were raised to the sky by human will alone. If you are ready, history's greatest operation begins. The Great Pyramid of Giza didn't appear in a day. It was the result of a painful, centuries-long R&D process. The Egyptians learned to build pyramids by falling down and getting back up. It all started around 2600 BC with Pharaoh Djoser. His architect, Imhotep, turned mud brick tombs into stone for the first time. But this wasn't a pyramid, it was massive steps stacked on top of each other. The step pyramid was a revolution, but it wasn't enough. Then came Sneferu, the father of Khufu, who built the Great Pyramid. Sneferu was ambitious. He wanted a true, smooth pyramid. His first attempt, the Midim Pyramid. The result? A total disaster. The structure was crushed under its own weight, and the outer casings collapsed. Today, when you look there, you don't see a pyramid, you see rubble. Sneferu didn't give up. He made a second attempt, the pyramid at Dahshur. Halfway through construction, engineers realized in horror that the foundation was sinking and the angle was too steep, 54 degrees. The pyramid was about to explode. In a panic, they reduced the angle to 43 degrees. The result was that strange shape we call the bent pyramid today. So, that flawless Great Pyramid at Giza was built upon these mistakes, the collapsed stones, and the experience of dead workers. Engineering is an art learned by making mistakes. What about the materials? The Great Pyramid required about 5.5 million tons of limestone and 8,000 tons of granite. Where did they find all this stone? For years, this remained a secret. Until 2013. In the caves of Wadi al-Jarf on the Red Sea coast, archaeologists found a papyrus that changed the course of history, the Diary of Mirror. Mirror was a middle-level manager. And in his diary, he noted the transport operations during the construction of the Great Pyramid. Mirror, along with his 40 elite sailors, loaded those white, high-quality limestones from the quarries in Tura onto ships and transported them to Giza via the Nile River. The Egyptians didn't just build pyramids, they changed the geography. They built a massive harbor complex that brought the Nile's water right to the foot of the pyramid through man-made canals. Yes, they entered the heart of the construction site by water. Those giant stones swam 4 miles thanks to the buoyancy of water. Without logistics, architecture is just a dream. Now, let's go down to the noisiest, dustiest part of the site, the quarries. What do we have? No iron. No steel. Only copper. Copper is a soft metal. So, how did they cut hard rocks with a soft metal? The answer, science. The Egyptians hardened the metal by adding arsenic to their copper saws. But the real secret was sand. They poured quartz sand between the saw and the stone. Actually, it wasn't the copper cutting the stone, it was the hard sand grains rubbing against it. Hours of rhythmic back-and-forth motion. But there was another problem, granite. The pink granites brought from Aswan for the pharaoh's burial chamber were one of the hardest natural materials after diamond. Copper saws wouldn't work on this. Here, inhuman patience comes into play. Workers took black volcanic stone balls called dolerite, which are harder than granite, and pounded the granite block. Tack, tack, tack. Thousands of blows a day. A hammering process that lasted for days just to advance a few centimeters. Can you imagine the noise in the quarry? The deafening rhythmic sound of thousands of people hitting stone at the same time. And when the stones became blocks, they used the power of water to move them. They inserted dry wooden wedges into the cracks of the rocks and wetted them. The wood swelled with water, expanded, and split the rock weighing tons from the main body with a crack. This is not brute force, this is manipulating nature. Forget the scene Hollywood has told us for years, naked slaves being whipped. This is pure fiction. Archaeological excavations tell us a completely different story. Right at the foot of the pyramids, a massive worker city named Hayt el-Ghurab was found. This wasn't a prison, it was an organized city. When the bones found in excavations were examined, a shocking truth emerged: these people were fed very well. They ate thousands of loaves of bread, beef, and fish daily. In ancient Egypt, it was impossible for a slave to eat beef. Even more interesting, traces of fractures and cracks were found on the skeletons, but they had all healed properly. So, a worker who had an accident on this site was not left to die, he was treated by the best doctors of the era. These people were farmers, craftsmen, and engineers who came from all over Egypt to build the eternal home of the pharaoh. This was not drudgery, it was a sacred duty for the god king. They worked in shifts and competed in teams. They even spray-painted their team names on the stone blocks with red ochre, like the Drunkards Gang or Friends of Khufu. They were not slaves, they were proud builders. Here is the biggest knot. How do you lift a 2.5-ton stone 146 meters high to the top of a 40-story skyscraper with primitive tools? The most common theory is the straight ramp. However, when engineers calculated this, they saw it was impossible. For donkeys and humans to pull the stone, the ramp's slope shouldn't exceed 8%. To reach the top of the pyramid with this slope, the ramp would need to be 1.6 kilometers long. Building such a ramp would require more stones than the pyramid itself. This is a logistical nightmare. What about the spiral ramp? A road winding around the pyramid like a snake? This makes sense, but there's a problem: it prevents you from seeing the corners and shape of the pyramid. You would build a misshapen pyramid. Today, the strongest theory is French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin's internal ramp theory. According to Houdin, they built the lower part of the pyramid with a short external ramp. But for the upper parts, they constructed a hidden ramp inside the pyramid, spiraling up like a tunnel. Infrared scans show that there might indeed be spiral-shaped voids inside the pyramid. The Egyptians may have hidden the ramp not outside, but inside the structure. It's not just about piling stones. It's about placing them with superhuman precision. Although the Great Pyramid was built thousands of years before the invention of the compass, it is aligned to true north even more precisely than the Greenwich Observatory today. The deviation is only 3/60th of a degree. How they did this just by watching the stars is still a major topic of debate. And the joints of the stones. The white Tura limestones on the exterior are fitted so tightly together that you can't even insert a razor blade or a piece of paper between them. The mortar they used, Egyptian mortar, is harder than the stone itself, and its chemical formula cannot be fully replicated even today. The Grand Gallery inside is a whole other level of engineering. When you see how the granite blocks weighing tons were arranged in a roof shape, relief chambers, to distribute the pressure above the king's chamber, you realize that these people rival today's engineers in static calculations. Thanks for watching. See you on another journey through the dusty pages of history. Stay with science, stay curious. Goodbye. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe.